One, two, three. Hello, check one, two, three.
And when you then go to an event like KubeCon, you might wonder, hey, there are a lot of technical people. Are they involved in sovereignty? And they are,
Yeah.
right?
KubeCon EU 2026. I'm here in the Zadito booth with Sage. How you doing?
Good, how are you, Paul?
Great to have you. This is awesome. You know, edge intelligence is the new thing. I'm hearing about the Kubernetes solutions. Why don't we start with what are you showing off here at the booth?
Yes, great question. Yeah, so as you already alluded to, edge intelligence, edge AI is a big deal for us. We've actually been working a lot with our customers around how they will bring AI models and AI agents to the edge. It was very clear for us already from the beginning it would have to be built on top of Kubernetes. So last year we had launched our Edge Kubernetes service, and so today and last week we've announced the Edge Intelligence platform, which leverages all those capabilities to now bring Edge AI at scale in any environment out there on your network.
The top thing is that AI infrastructure and the deployment of AI native applications means platform engineering is not an option. Platform engineering is absolutely mandatory for success. That's rule number one. Takeaway number two is that it is time to unleash developer productivity. It's all about the developer experience. We need to empower developers everywhere to work closely with the business as consultants to fulfill their requirements, reduce backlog, and automate a lot of their coding and QA tasks using AI. But they need to do it on known, good, approved skill sets that are built by and deployed by the platform engineering team, working with server engineers, network engineers, cloud engineers on the back end, right?
That's kind of another piece to me. When we're looking at that, we're seeing that 25% of the 2025 research that we had, 25% of the budget for IT was spent on AI workloads, but not sure really where that money was going. They were trying to use it and figure out what was happening with it. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think when we're thinking about the AI workloads that are, coming to these enterprises, the first thing we think about is like, how do we enable that workload? And then the second thing is, how do we put the guardrails around that workload?
Right.
And so with VMware Cloud Foundation, we have a set of capabilities built in the box in our private AI services that can provide you, those guardrails for your organization to run these services at scale.
The ingress Nginx, although it's important, is just a step one because the ingress is a key building block for modern architecture, but it's not the end state.
Right.
It's the first state. So people need to really think about having a unified ingress architecture that supports their Kubernetes workloads, but also supports their VM workloads, because VMs and Kubernetes are here to stay and coexist for many, many years.
The other thing that you touched on that I thought was incredibly powerful is the unified management plane. That is incredibly powerful because what I see in our research is 75% of organizations are using 6 to 15 different tools in order to do management. That's too much, right? And then 54% of those respondents indicated they were in favor of a unified solution. So you're right on with that.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. And if I can't take the liberty, I'll add a third pillar to what you said. The third pillar is cost reduction, right? Most customers, I think the days like 5 years ago, the cool features, everyone was chasing that. Now it's about consolidation and cost optimization. And that's a big area of focus for our customers and our executive sponsors. And everything we do is helping them streamline stuff, but also reduce costs.
Yeah, absolutely. And cost used to be one of the top things. But right now, I mean, the skill gap and the complexity,
I completely agree with that.
Those are two things that really hit the top.
I completely agree with that. Even if people had the ability to write checks, you can't find the skills.
That's right.
And Kubernetes is definitely complex.
Developer activities, what's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, this KubeCon, the key theme for us, surprisingly, is as well AI. But our take on it in the cloud native platform world is essentially how we can help you with AI to make the management of your open infrastructure platform much easier, right? And what we did is we have a agentic ecosystem. And essentially our whole platform, if it's application collection, if it's Rancher, if it's our security product, New Vector, observability, they all have MCP agents, agentic AI agents, and essentially you have a single interface, and that's Rancher, right? And you can ask it a very simple question. What about this application, right? And Rancher will respond to you and say, oh, it has 5 CVEs, but you know what? I found an application collection, a version which has 0 CVEs. Do you want me to help you to deploy it? So, and it makes the platform teams much easier. And the interesting bit is it's open, right? So you can as well connect a third party. You, for example, have your ticketing system, right? And it can even consider this information, or you take all of this and build it into your existing workflows you might even have outside our platform, right? What is the key thing we are doing? We are helping essentially to abstract away with AI the complexities of open infrastructure platforms, right?
In our research is organizations are looking to ship code very fast. In fact, what we're seeing is 24% of organizations want to ship code on an hourly basis, yet only 8% are able to do so. And that's largely due to the fact that there's inefficiencies in the CI/CD pipeline across the SDLC. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about operational efficiencies. You talk about working offline, working at in your environment, pushing, bringing the code together. How does this all work?
Exactly, and especially you have these compounding effects, right? If your CI pipeline, fails, 10% of the time, or it runs like a couple minutes longer than it should be, like those are compounding, once you start testing more aggressively and more frequently. So that's why we put a strong focus on make sure you have a well-working test environment. Start with your local dev sandbox, local stack, and then push it into CI, and then further down into staging production, right? So really accelerating that whole journey. As we mentioned, like with agents, the whole thing, just the whole value proposition is just accelerated and amplified, because now what we're basically seeing is code being generated almost exponentially more and more by these agents, but the code that actually lands in production is growing at a somewhat linear or sublinear pace, right? So you have this huge gap of validation where agents need to figure out things and need to try and test things out. And it becomes more a matter of the quality gates that you put in place to let those agents kind of give them guardrails how they operate.
But for open source in general, maintainers are dealing with a lot of burden from AI. I know that developers love it because it does increase their velocity, but their increased output has not been met by increased capacity with maintainers. We need better tooling to handle that influx of reviews. And on the steering committee, we are putting some policies in place that should limit the number of AI-generated PRs we're getting, but it's not going to solve all of the problem. So I would like to see better tooling around that. We've talked about having some kind of AI like pre-review linter to determine whether certain conditions are met or not before a human actually reviews a PR. Hopefully by next year we have something like that in place, because it is becoming like kind of unmanageable for maintainers.
Where everyone's talking about automation and AI just kind of running things, that human in the loop is absolutely important.
Yes. What are you hearing from customers coming to the booth?
I think, look, the big change this year is about, we're moving from large-scale training, and then more and more organizations are now saying, we're moving towards inference, we want to do more, we want to be building more agents, we want to be building more autonomous decision-making systems and AI applications. How do we do that and be confident in the result? You hear it again and again and again, I use this, but I'm not confident in the output, I don't know if I trust it, or it's hallucinating. We hear that all the time. But when you're talking about an organization who's dealing with tens, hundreds of terabytes, or even a petabyte, and more of data, how do you ensure that the data you're acting on is as relevant as it can be?
So means I would say in a way is the deployment portion is a solved problem now. So that means it's given, it's de facto, that's a choice. Then people are starting to see, hey, what I can make things better? What is missing? Then it's starting to research around, like, I finished this, like look around, what else? Then they see the cargo really fitting and solving their problem regarding they have more and more clusters, they have multiple environments. They also want to make sure deploying to the production is being controlled with governance. Then they see the cargo really fits there.
Yeah, so obviously governance is important, especially here in Europe. We're in Europe, data sovereignty, governance, compliance, regulation.
Also, I think in these years, most of the technologies are about the AI things.
Well, AI is top of mind for a lot of companies. The other thing that's top of mind that I feel, and we're in Europe, right, and I'm sure in China it's the same way. Governance, compliance, regulations is obviously a top of mind. Data sovereignty is top of mind for a lot of companies. What are your thoughts there?
Actually, we try to obey any the regulations, and especially for the financial area.
OpenSearch is really good. It's combining lexical search with vector search to give you accurate results related to what you just bought.
Yeah, recommendations is really cool. Yeah,
and it's
personalization.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's driving a lot of business through the airport. That's just one example. They're using it for their infrastructure system, for their parking, for their flight schedules. And use cases are expanding all the time there. So you start at a point and then you find it's actually an infrastructure layer.
Yeah, well, I think that the evolution of OpenSearch has been really showing growth, right? You see that from the observability space, from the focus in that area, to now showing to more of a unified harmonization of AI platforms and LLMs and the use case that you're talking about. It's really powerful to see it all come together. I like that because it's showing that innovation is growing. I was saying that in 2025 that it was the year of innovation and experimentation. Right, and 2026 is the year of implementation.
From the buyer's perspective, obviously there's a cost impact, right? They want to know, but who's your typical audience that you talk to?
Yeah, so typically we work with the platform engineering team, and the FinOps team has a lot of influence. Where we've seen success is when those teams are aligned, and I have a savings initiative, but I need to make sure I can safely roll out these recommendations. A lot of tools will give you recommendations, but they'll break your workloads when you try and deploy them. So what's important to us is being able to build that trust, because you can only move as fast as the speed of trust. So that's very important to us. Of how do you safely reduce waste in your environment and end up saving money to then kind of present back to the business?
I love that, moving at the speed of trust. That's really, really cool.
It's kind of, okay, I really need to drive the collaboration between dev and DevOps, and how do I make sure that it's not only the platform team that designs some stuff that are used by the developer, but it's also how do I make sure that this developer that are kind of DevOps sensitive can also create and respect what we have done as a platform team, right? And this is kind of already the second step about adoption. Is not I build, you use, but I build for you, allowing you also to build and to use and to be completely independent, but you have to respect the governance of the IT organization, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, governance, compliance, and regulations is key for most organizations. So I think that's a big factor, especially when it comes to releasing code and pushing things out the door. I think that you're spot on with regards to what I was finding in Platform Day yesterday. It was the need for a unified platform, but also have the kind of the same need to use your bespoke solution. So being able to have that collaboration between your own unique environment, but being able to collaborate across your ecosystem. That was kind of a theme that I was coming out of the event yesterday.
The thing that sovereignty, data sovereignty, compliance, regulations, and governance, right? Hardened images plays nicely into that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we are complementary to hardened images. A lot of us came from the hardened images world before. We were private previously, but I don't know if you want to kind of dive into how we kind of emerge in there.
I look at it like this. Hardened images is really focused on this idea of CV reduction and that kind of thing. We're kind of coming in and saying, like, if you can run that image that's also secure on top of a secure platform, then you solve all of the possibilities, all the different ways that things can go wrong. And that really helps a lot of people who maybe are running AI-generated code or are AI agents that can be non-deterministic, for example. Giving them a safe platform to run that stuff on is really cool.
Because when you look at the images, you have your start, and then you're adding, like if you're asking Claude to code for you, you're adding that code into it, and then you're eventually running it. Well, what happens from the start to the end? We're sitting there protecting at the most, what we see a really critical part, which is at the end.
Everyone starts with ready-made models. They deploy them quickly, build their chatbot, let's say, and then they say, oh, actually I need to do fine-tuning, I need to optimize the model, and so on. And that's when they go to the custom model deployment. In reality, you should start small with what you have, and then grow and extend your software stack, the tools that the blueprints that you use as your project matures. Don't just overthink it, but also don't do AI for the sake of AI, because everyone around here does it.
Yeah, no, very, very exciting. I mean, I think it's important for people to know that, because you can't enter at any point. I think using your existing environment, you're going to maximize your existing IT investment. So it's really, really great. All right.
Yeah, so Sebastian, there's a lot of acceleration around these workloads. AI is coming in, lines of businesses are writing code, applications are growing. How are you getting in front of all of this? How are you managing all of this?
I think what we're currently seeing is, first of all, okay, now all of these AI projects are popping up and a lot of new platforms are coming up. But I think this will consolidate in the future. Like, why do you want to have 4 or 5 different platforms? And most of the stuff can run on Kubernetes, or it's already built for Kubernetes. So let's have one common platform to run everything, like to run your normal application.
Right, so that has been a big dynamic that you will see as the present trend in this KubeCon for sure. Now the future definitely is AI, right? That's where everything is headed.
Right.
And as you know, data is the substrate for AI. Data is the oil in the AI industry, and we definitely play a very strong, data management. What we do definitely has a strong role in the AI transformation.
Yeah, well, so I agree with you. I think data is absolutely the fundamental, like you said, the oil of the industry. But I also believe that when you look at the focus of what we see here, being in Europe, right, there's a number of things, especially at this event that we're seeing, is governance, compliance, regulations, and data sovereignty. Those are things. So data is the lifeline. Data sovereignty in this region is very critical.
For us, we started as a multi-cloud management. Today, we are more into the cloud operations. We are providing a platform that enables cloud operations across distributed infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a value proposition that's very strong. I mean, we see in our research that 94% of organizations are using 2 or more clouds, 65% are using 4 or more clouds. So it's definitely operations and management across distributed environments is important.
Well, you see also the focus of the conference shift. When you look at the topics, it used to be developer platform engineering. Today, it's not about also creating the systems on what systems can really help operate that distributed landscape, infrastructure, AI, cloud. Not to forget, there's also still cloud, traditional cloud out there.
Yeah, right. And everybody putting all the eggs in one basket is a bit of a problem, right? When you're with the hyperscalers, if you want the state-of-the-art compute, you have to wait, unless you're a very big customer, right? So only the good things go to the ones who are paying a lot, right? And then the other question about data sovereignty. It's something, it's opening up a lot of new use cases and things, but you have to keep you have to be in control. People need to understand what sovereignty means as well, right? You have to be in control, you have to be in power of everything end to end. But how can you do that if you're stuck with a vendor?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and on top of that, not just being stuck with the vendor lock-in pieces, right? But there's also things like we're appropriately saying we're in Europe, the EU CRA coming out this year, right? Compliance, governance, regulation. It's a very important topic.
And one of the advantages is the developer only has to focus on that 10% of the business, the code, right? They don't have to focus on the 90% of repeatable pieces.
That's right. When we think about the big epics of tech that we've been organized around for the last 30 years, we would start with a full PC, and you would start and say, well, virtualization at the CPU lets me at least share the hardware. And containerization at the OS lets me share the base OS and just stack layers on from here. And WebAssembly is just the natural next progression in that stack. It's an abstraction at the library layer, which means as a developer, not only do you just bring your business logic, but when we build WebAssembly, it's secure by default. It starts with no ambient authority. The problem with containers is that we ship them half full. You put a small binary into a container, and maybe it only needs to speak HTTP and standard in and write to the file system. Well, there's hundreds of other system calls that are still here. And provisioning that environment as a separate process takes over a second. So it's called the cold start problem. WebAssembly addresses these things at the root and gives you fast start time, the ability to scale to 0. And because you're shipping less code, not only can you operate your infrastructure more densely, but there's so much less to maintain. You're not patching utilities that you're not even using in the first place.
Yeah, super cool. And I think developers should check it out. If you're not already playing with it, you should definitely check it out.
So there is, many people that are thinking, okay, how do I reduce my dependence on Broadcom? And the problem is, it's not necessarily the migration, but it's around the networking, right? How do I make the networking as easy as possible as I start running a virtual machine in Kubernetes?
Right.
How do I have a consistent security policies between my kind of old environment and my VMware in my Kubernetes environment? So that's what we're doing with our new project, which is like a networking bridge between your old VMware estate and Kubernetes. And it's just to really help organization migrate from VMware into Kubernetes.
That's great. That's great. It reduces the friction. It helps with the skill gap issues, right? So you can kind of have that communication across those applications. Very cool. All right. Thank you. Paul Nash, welcome to you live from the show floor at KubeCon Amsterdam 2026.